You were told to be good, to be kind, to be agreeable, to follow the rules, to think of others, to put yourself last. And maybe you did. Maybe you tried. You smiled when you wanted to speak. You stayed when you wanted to leave. You forgave what broke you. You became what the world called a good person. But inside, you were dying, because the more you tried to be good, the more you betrayed yourself. You said yes when your gut screamed no. You stayed silent when your truth could have shattered the room. You put on a mask and forgot where your real face went. You weren't being good, you were being compliant. Friedrich Nietzsche saw through this illusion. He didn't believe in good people. He believed in masks, in roles, in herd training disguised as morality. Morality is the herd instinct in the individual, he wrote. That's it. Not divine truth, not universal law, just programming. From birth you were trained, rewarded when you obeyed, punished when you rebelled, shaped by expectations, molded by fear, tamed, until one day you couldn't tell the difference between being good and being used. Nietzsche didn't hate kindness. He hated cowardice, disguised as kindness. He saw that most people are not good because they choose to be, but because they're afraid not to be, afraid of judgment, afraid of rejection, afraid of standing alone. So they join the herd, they nod, they conform, they say all the right things, and lose themselves in the process. You think you're being moral, but are you? Or are you just afraid to be real? Nietzsche's question wasn't, how can I be good? It was, whose morality is this? And why am I following it? Who decided that nice? Was the goal? Who benefits from your self-denial? Who gains when you shrink to make others feel comfortable? This is what Nietzsche called slave morality, a value system built by the weak to control the strong. A morality designed not to elevate truth, but to suppress power. It says, don't stand out. Don't be proud. Don't be too much. Don't seek greatness. Why? Because if you rise too high, you make the herd uncomfortable. And if the herd is uncomfortable, they'll turn on you. So the system teaches you, stay soft, stay small, stay good. But Nietzsche said, let them be uncomfortable. Let them feel your presence. Let them choke on your silence instead of devouring your compliance. Because goodness, if not chosen consciously, is not virtue. It's submission. You didn't come here to be agreeable. You didn't come here to live in apology. You came here to become, to create, to stand alone if necessary, and to embody your own truth, even when it's not beautiful. That is what Nietzsche respected. Not morality, but honesty, not obedience, but sovereignty. And it begins the moment you stop trying to be good, not to become cruel, not to become reckless, but to become real, to say what needs to be said, to do what needs to be done, to live by your own code, even if no one claps, especially when no one claps. Because here's the dark truth. Many people love your goodness, only when it serves them. They don't want your strength. They want your agreement. They don't want your clarity. They want your silence. They don't want your freedom. They want your predictability. So when you stop being good, you stop being useful to the wrong people. And that is when you start becoming dangerous. You stop asking, will they like me? And start asking, will I still respect myself after this conversation is over? You stop begging to be accepted by people who couldn't handle you at full voltage. You stop apologizing for being something other than tame. This isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming whole. It's about integrating your power with your presence. It's about becoming what Nietzsche called the Übermensch, the one who transcends the herd and becomes a law unto himself. But before you can become that, you have to do something terrifying. You have to stop chasing the image of a good person and start asking what a truthful person would do instead. The herd doesn't want you to think. It wants you to agree, not to question, but to repeat, not to rise, but to blend in, because individuality makes the collective nervous, and nothing threatens a crowd like someone who walks alone and doesn't look back. Friedrich Nietzsche saw this clearly. He didn't believe in equality of thought. He believed that most people don't think at all. They conform, they echo, they adopt values they never questioned. They believe what feels safe, not what's true. In individuals, insanity is rare, Nietzsche wrote, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. That's the danger of the herd. Not that it's evil, but that it's unconscious. It moves by instinct, by fear, by tradition. And when you challenge it, you expose its foundation, which is fragile. So what does the herd do? It fights back. It labels you arrogant, dangerous, immoral, selfish. Not because you are, but because you think for yourself. And in a world that confuses obedience with virtue, independence is treated like a threat. You felt it, the tension when you say no without explaining, the silence when you choose solitude over shallow connection, the backlash when you choose what's right over what's popular. That's the herd reacting, not to who you are, but to what you represent, freedom. And here's the truth Nietzsche wanted you to see. Most people don't want freedom. They want comfort, familiarity, reassurance. They want the illusion of safety. Even if it costs them their sovereignty, they'll trade autonomy for acceptance, power, for peace, truth, for applause. But the individual, the real one, doesn't trade. He creates. She stands. They walk through silence and doubt and rejection. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Nietzsche didn't believe in playing nice. He believed in playing real. He believed that the path to greatness requires resistance, friction, aloneness. Because without those things, you don't grow. You just conform. You don't evolve. You just imitate. You don't become. You just obey. And here's where it gets hard. The herd isn't just around you. It's inside you. It's the voice that says, don't say that. What if they think less of you? Don't do that, you might lose your place. Don't step out of line, just wait your turn. That voice, it's not your truth, it's your training. You were trained to be acceptable, trained to wait for permission, trained to equate goodness with approval. But Nietzsche challenges you to ask, what if I stopped performing? What would remain? Would there still be a self, or just a shell? Would there be vision, or just imitation? Would there be power, or just popularity? You don't become yourself by merging with the crowd. You become yourself by stepping away from it, by asking hard questions, by facing solitude, by letting go of fitting in and starting to stand up. Yes, the crowd is loud. Yes, it will call you names. Yes, you will feel the pull to return, but don't. Because the moment you step back in, you start shrinking again. Your thoughts soften, your edge dulls, your clarity fades, and you go back to being liked but never known. The individual's path is not paved with applause, it's paved with conviction. You don't need everyone's agreement to be right. You don't need consensus to speak the truth. You don't need the crowd to become whole. Nietzsche said, "He who seeks may easily get lost himself. All isolation is wrong, so say the herd. And long did you belong to the herd." This isn't about isolation for its own sake. It's about choosing your selfhood over social convenience. It's about facing yourself without the noise of collective opinion. That's where the individual's born. In silence, in reflection, in strength. You don't need to escape the world. You just need to escape the part of you that still needs its validation. And when you do, when you stand alone and realize you didn't die, you become dangerous. Because now you're not chasing approval. You're chasing truth, and truth doesn't need to be liked. You want to be liked. Everyone does. It feels safe. It feels warm. It feels like belonging. But here's the truth. The more you need to be liked, the less you are yourself. Nietzsche saw this craving for approval as one of the most dangerous forms of self-abandonment. Because to be liked, you must be agreeable. To be agreeable, you must be predictable. And to be predictable, you must suppress whatever truth might disturb the room. So you smile when you disagree. You soften your opinions. You present the version of yourself that others are least likely to reject. And with every polite nod, you die a little more. The surest way to corrupt a youth, Nietzsche wrote, is to teach him to hold in higher regard those who think alike than those who think differently. Because sameness is safe, but safety kills truth. The need to be liked is the death of authenticity, because sooner or later you'll face a moment where your truth and their approval are in conflict. And in that moment, you will have to choose, do I stay real or do I stay liked? Most people fold. They pick peace over power, harmony over honesty, image over integrity. And then they wonder why they feel lost, why their relationships feel fake, why their life feels like performance art. Nietzsche wouldn't tell you to be rude. He'd tell you to be uncompromising, to speak the truth, even if your voice shakes, to walk away, even when they beg you to stay, to let them misunderstand you and not try to fix it. Because the courage to be disliked is the foundation of real selfhood. The people who change the world are almost never liked at first. They're attacked, dismissed, laughed at, demonized, not because they're wrong, but because they break the script. They don't play the expected role. They don't follow the polite script. They show up as themselves, with no filter, no mask, no apology. And the world doesn't know what to do with that. So it tries to correct them, punish them, tame them. But if they hold, if they stay grounded, if they refuse to conform, the same world that once feared them starts to follow them. Because authenticity, no matter how uncomfortable, always outlasts popularity. You've been taught that being disliked means you failed. Nietzsche would say, it often means you've just begun. You've started saying no, started setting standards, started breaking free. And those who benefited from your obedience will call it selfishness. Let them. That's the price of sovereignty. You don't need to be cruel, but you do need to be clear. And clarity is often offensive to people who rely on your confusion to control you. You don't need to be embraced by everyone. You just need to be rooted in yourself, because those who are truly your people, the ones who love you in your fullness, they won't need you to dilute your truth, to make them comfortable. Let others think you've changed. Let them think you've become distant. Let them talk. Your work is not to be digestible. Your work is to be true. That's why Nietzsche respected those who stood alone. Because it's easy to be brave. In a crowd that agrees with you, it's hard to be brave. When you stand alone in silence, with everyone watching, and still choose not to fold, the crowd won't clap for your growth. Don't wait for their applause. They'll clap when you conform. They'll love you when you shrink. They'll support you, as long as you reflect their expectations. But the moment you rise, you become a mirror, and not everyone is ready to see themselves clearly. So let them dislike you. Let them misunderstand you. Let them sit in the discomfort of your boundaries. That's not rejection, that's selection. The world is filtering itself around your truth. Nietzsche didn't want you to rebel for the sake of rebellion. He wanted you to stop sacrificing your fire, to keep others warm. He wanted you to live out loud, even if your voice shook the room, because the truth is, until you are willing to be disliked, you are not free. The goal is not to be liked, not to be accepted, not even to be understood. The goal is to become someone who can stand alone and still choose what is right according to your own truth. This was Nietzsche's vision, not the obedient man, not the popular one, but the Übermensch, the one who transcends the herd and becomes the architect of his own life. Most people live in reaction. They follow inherited rules, inherited gods, inherited fears. They worship tradition, not because it's wise, but because it's familiar. But Nietzsche asked, what if you had the courage to create values instead of inherit them? What if morality wasn't a hand-me-down, but a personal creation? The Übermensch doesn't follow maps, he builds them. She doesn't ask for permission, she grants it. They don't bend to rules, they become the rule. This is not arrogance, it's not narcissism. It's sovereignty. It's what happens when you stop playing by rules you didn't write, in games you never agreed to. It's not about being rebellious for show. It's about asking, does this still serve me? Is this my truth or just someone else's voice I never questioned? And if the answer is no, you rewrite it quietly, deliberately. Without asking, you become the one who no longer needs to fit into a broken system. You become the one who is the system. That's a shift from follower to forger, from consumer of values to creator of meaning. You stop living for others' expectations. You start sculpting a life that is terrifying in its clarity. And when people ask, who gave you the right? You smile, because the answer is simple. You did. But that path is not easy. It is silent. It is lonely. It is full of doubt. Because when you stand alone, there is no one left to clap, no one left to blame, no one left to follow, just you and the mirror and the voice inside that whispers, this is who I really am. Nietzsche respected that voice more than any external praise. He knew that to become anything great, you must be willing to risk. Everything safe, you must let go of comfort, of certainty, of belonging. And in the ashes of everything borrowed, you build something new, not perfect, but real, yours. The Übermensch is not loud. He is not hungry for attention. He is complete within himself. She does not ask for applause. She does not perform. She simply lives as a force that shapes the world rather than reacts to it. And when people see you living that way, they may judge, they may mock, they may fall silent. But inside, they'll feel it. Because authenticity shakes rooms. You won't need to convince anyone. Your presence will be its own evidence. You won't need to shout your values. Your actions will be the speech. And even if they never agree, you'll never again ask for agreement. Because now, you're free. Nietzsche didn't want more obedience. He wanted more creators, more challengers, more individuals who weren't afraid to offend the crowd by becoming whole. He believed that true power is not in being right, but in being real. Not in dominating others, but in refusing to be dominated by fear, by guilt, by expectation. That is the new strength. Not the one that conquers others, but the one that refuses to betray itself. And when you reach that point, when you can walk alone without flinching, you've become the very thing the herd cannot understand. not because you're better, but because you're free. And freedom, to those still in chains, looks like madness. Let them think you're mad. Let them talk. You're no longer playing their game. You're building something they can't touch. A self, a standard, a reality, born from truth. You spent your life trying to be good, to be approved, to be liked, to be enough, and all it got you was exhaustion. Because no matter how kind you were, they wanted more. No matter how soft you spoke, they wanted silence. No matter how much you gave, they never saw the cost. Friedrich Nietzsche didn't tell you to stop caring. He told you to start choosing. To choose truth over comfort, conviction over convenience, and strength over likability. He knew what the world rewards: obedience, conformity, softness, but he also knew what the world needs: individuals, people who are real instead of polite, people who are whole instead of liked, people who will speak even when their voice shakes the room. You were never meant to play a supporting role in your own life. You were never meant to dim yourself so others wouldn't feel insecure. You were never meant to stay small just to be accepted. You were meant to rise. So let them dislike you, let them misunderstand, let them whisper, because while they stay trapped in performance, you are building something they'll never understand: a self, a truth, a life that is not dictated by the crowd, but sculpted by your will. Share this video with someone who's ready to stop performing and start becoming. Comment below, "I choose truth over approval." Let that be your new compass. And remember, this isn't where the journey ends. This is where it begins. The journey continues in the next video.